So hello, my name is Mark and I'm formally welcoming you to the small workshop, my little place of fun and adventures in woodworking at the bottom of my garden, for those of you that are interested in that sort of thing. So here you are from the outside. I built this a few months ago. It's just I built a new shed, so we're going to go inside in a minute. As you can see, I built that, took an old shed down and created just a small workshop space. That is a place to have some fun and make some interesting stuff. So here we are as we go inside through the door into the small workshop, and I'm going to take you on a tour around the various parts. So when you're designing or making a workshop, you've actually got to try and work out your own space. There's quite a few videos around small workshops. I've looked at lots of them, and you can get some great ideas, and I've certainly got some, and we plagiarize, we get ideas from each other. That's absolutely fantastic. But what in the end you've got to do is create your workshop that actually works for you. And I'm going to show you what's worked for me in using the space available to me, which is not a standard shape. I had to make this shed and build it, which took some building, took a bit of designing, because it pitches down, and it goes down to a point, and you've got all these different angles around the walls, so it's not perfectly square. It's about 3 meters from front to the door, from back to front. And you're talking about 2.5–3 meters coming back this way. I'm going to show you around the tools and the various stations I've got, and how I'm trying to make this really actually quite small space, which lots of us have only got. We've only got really small spaces. So if you're in a position where you can afford to have the space to do and open up and have lots of walk around everything, then that's fantastic. But lots of us can't do that, but that doesn't mean you can't actually have a small workshop that works for you and do some amazing stuff in it. So here we go. We're going to do a tour of the various stations and the various bits and pieces in here, and hopefully you'll enjoy this or find it really informative as we go on a journey and we go on have some adventures here in the small workshop. Okay, one of the first things you're going to want to think about is an actual workbench and how you're going to make it fit and what's the best place for it. So my thinking around this for my space was I made a workbench there that is out of just exterior ply, and it's 18mm, and then I've just edged it, because particularly edging you can take that on and off as it gets damaged and replace that, and then that just protects the main part of the bench. So that was just my thinking on that. I also, because I'm in a small space and I haven't yet got a vise, I've got a space for a vise, but I haven't bought one yet because I'm still adding and developing the workshop, so that's one of the things next on my list to get. But it's going to go there. But my thinking, as you can see looking back that way, I wanted the bench so that, because I'm in a small space, when I've got a vise there, that means if I've got anything long, it can go straight out the door. So I'm not so restricted. Even though I'm in actually quite a small space, I'm actually not as restricted for length when I put it on and I work with something, and it can go out there. I mean, the weather is, you're open to the weather, but most of us are okay with that. I built this shed with see, it overhangs there. I don't know if you can see that on the ceiling there. So I built that, so that just protects that. So weather actually doesn't come in. So actually, if it was raining, unless it was a really mad storm, that would be absolutely fine, and you can be protected from the weather, and you can work with that. And it's really nice to have the air and the flow. So a really nice workbench that you can see I've just done, and then obviously there's bits to it that I've added, which I'm going to go and talk about in a minute. But a workbench is a workbench, and it's very, you can get some all singing, all dancing workbenches, spend a fortune, but at the end of the day, it's just got to work for you, and your work for your space. And you can spend a fortune on a workbench, but it needs to be really solid. So I've made that out of 4x2 legs, which is then supported under there, and you can see there. So that's, you know, it's a workbench and it's got stuff on there. I'm going to go around the various things in the workshop. So now we come to workflow, and where do you put everything? Well, that's always a personal choice, and depending on the space you've got to work in. But what you want is things to be within easy reach, and as you can see over the back here, I've got all sorts of shelving I've made and different things. There's various different things. You could do French cleat stuff. I've seen a lot of videos around French cleats. I haven't really got the wall space to do that and to have that, so I've got to think differently. If you've got a bigger space, then you could use that sort of idea, but I've got lots of shelving here, so I've decided to go actually an old school, you know, route, which I actually feel really comfortable with, because there's no right or wrong, it's just what works for you. So you can see over here I've created, I don't know whether you can see on the video there, but I'm bringing you in, and you've got various, everything is just here. You've got screwdrivers and chisels and all the hammers and various things above the bench, drill bits, tapes. There's a shelf where I keep my screws, my glue is here, and then you've got various shelving up here, which I've got all my router bits, which are all to hand, more screws, more router bits. So, and up the top here, whether you can see that. So up the top there, I've got a really big shelf there, which just keeps all the various handheld power tools. So we've got things like, we've got a palm, a small router, 1/4 inch router, palm, a palm handheld router. We've got a rip saw there. We've got planers. We've got obviously the power tools, the drill drivers and drills, which actually they're down there, DeWalt. And again, you can go through. I've got some palm sanders, belt sanders, and those things. Up there, I've just put, you know, just you making use of the space. I'm put cramps up the top there, which I've got some cramps, not actually that many in here at the minute, saws, so everything has just got a space. And I think it's really important that when you're in a small space that you work real tidy, that you keep it, because otherwise you get overrun really quick. So there's various workbenches if you want to add, and I can go outside, and trestles and tables that I can add things to. So there's just using the space. Use the space that works for you. So you can see there, simple things. So keeping everything has its space. There's my honing guide and my sharpening block just in the corner there. I don't know if you can see it, it's just here. Lots and lots of so it's just various different screws that I'm using at the minute, screwdrivers, handheld. There are the various little just places just to keep some of the chisels and hammers, various things. My utility belt, pretending I'm Batman when I'm working, but actually it's really handy, because how many times do we lose our tape and our pencil? We put it down and we can't find the things we're working with. So a space to store some cramps, some more cramps, as you can see. And as I go round, I've got this, I'm trying to keep this back wall quite clear, because you need to put, you know, material, you need to put the wood you're working with and various projects. When you're just bringing stuff in and out, there needs to be some space for it. I've also created there's another rack up the top there, which is just for lengths of timber, which can sit above the door. So again, that looks after that, and that's just a good little space. So as you can see, we have a table saw, which in my workshop in here, this is where it lives, because everything has to live somewhere. And although they're not big pieces, because this is just a standard DeWalt table saw, portable table saw, but actually it can be used for all different things. And I'm going to show you, sort of go through the process of how I thought about where it can go and how the workshop can support the table saw, even though it's quite small, but yet still use the spaces. So as in lots of videos, you'll see I'll put it on casters. So it's the best way, because it needs to be movable and work in even if it's actually, in my case, a really small space. But so I just built that table for it to sit on, some nice casters, and then you can pull that out into this space here. So that's sort of how that works. I'm going to show you, I'm going to move the camera and I'm just going to put that in space. So literally in seconds I can have this table saw out. I suppose if you're really mad enough you could go flying around the street on it, but that'd be a bit stupid, wouldn't it? But yeah, you can have this and move this wherever you want, position it, and on the length what you're working, spin it round and work back this way. And what I've designed is that the workbench is exactly level, it's exactly the same height. Just getting a level. So that works as part of an extra bed. So if you've got a wider piece, you just clear the space. Again, making every space in your workshop work for you. So that just works, sits there. I've also added, because often you're working on your own, I've created a gate which comes out. So again, that sits level and you are able to put your timber through, and that bracket acts as your extra pair of hands, effectively someone behind you. But when you're actually working on your own, then it stops it falling off the back and just makes it safer. So something really, really simple, a really, really simple idea, but actually just building a bracket and building a gate that actually operates there and that actually supports that, and that just makes life easier, makes life a lot easier. Just showing a better close-up of that design. So it opens, it comes around, and it actually goes right back behind Bandsaw there, which I'll get to in a little bit. And it's just on some brackets. And just a really simple idea, but we worked out how do we get that so that we can actually, someone can be, if you're working on your own. So it just works, and it's just about thinking, okay, how does the actual workshop work for me? So there you go, something really, really simple, but makes a difference. So the next bit of kit I'm going to just walk you through is how I've thought about having a miter saw. And again, because I'm in a really small space, I had to think it needs to be movable, and it would be perfect, it would be brilliant if I could actually have it in a fixed place to actually the workstation, but again I don't have the space. So again I had to think, okay, I need to have a station that you can move out here and be and work, and also store and be out of the way, because I'm actually in a really small space. And you think, how do you get all these different bits of kit into actually a really tiny space but actually still have space to work? So it is always moving things around, and that's a compromise. That's the compromise of a small workshop, but this is sort of how I've worked out that it would be best. So again, it's on casters, I can bring it out, and here we are as a miter saw, and you'll see it's down there. So what I've done is I put it on a bar so that the whole thing pivots. So when I want it, all I do is bring it out to the space that I want to use it in, put the locks on, and just bring this up into space. And there you can see, you just clip that on. And it's ready, and it's easy to use, and there is a miter saw, which it's not an all singing all dancing one, but it works for me at the moment, and I will want to upgrade this. I'm going to upgrade it in time, but this is just all right, it's fine, and it works in this space. And again, because I'm in a small workshop, and lots of you are in small workshops, you want to be able to move it and get it out of the way. So you do your piece of work, you cut. That again is level with the worktop. So if I spin this round, I need to take the casters off. So if I'm working on a piece, then the actual, now that's level and it goes across, and I can actually support it there, cut. So there's many ways I can use this in this space. It's not fixed. So if I had it fixed to somewhere on there, I'm quite restricted as to the lengths I can cut on it, particularly from the left hand side. So I can move this back this way, go and action camera, and I can pull it in here. And then as soon as I'm finished with it, it is that simple. It's down, it's back in, it's out of the way, and it's done. And I've done the cutting, and there's the And all I did was again made a frame out of 4x2, and that seemed to be the best solution for this space. Again, you've got to work out the best solution for your space, but that seemed like the best solution for this space, to have two actually quite important bits of kit, which is a table saw and the miter saw, and actually have them on casters and move them around. There's lots of videos on how to do that, but this just shows you how it works in my space, in actually quite a small space. And then all of a sudden it's back, it's out of the way, you've cut it, you've done, and it's out of the way. Another quite essential bit of kit and tools that I wanted in this space was a router table. And I thought, well, how am I going to make that? Because then you can do so much if you've got actually a router table. I've got portable handheld routers, but I also wanted actually, like, you know, I haven't got the space for a spindle moulder, but having something and building in actually a router table and using the space that works for me. So again, looking at some ideas online, and some other guys have done some amazing stuff, I built this sliding router table which comes out, and I'm going to actually give you a close-up onto that to see, you can see all the various components of how I've actually constructed it. But that again, it's all about where you can bring it out into the space, use it, and then put it away. And it's on some very heavy duty drawer runners that can take, don't know the weight that they can take, but there's quite a lot of weight. Yes, it's got a little bit of flex, but I've also built a system which supports that when it's back, and I'll show that in a minute. So there's the router table, and I'm going to do a close-up so you can actually see the various bits and how the fence goes and where it's stored. So here we are, this is the router table. Comes in nice and neat, out of the way when I don't need it, and when I want to use it, pull it out. So there you can see the router, which is fixed in on actually a nice piece of about 6, 8 mil, 9 mil perspex that I've actually fixed that in as a router plate. You can see the fence to run the fence on, to clamp the fence down. I've got some of those, cut them down, the T-grooves. And then you can see underneath, that is actually the fence, and that's how I saw the fence. So it's sitting there, again, it's all got a place, it's got a space, and you can see I've actually put some clamps there, so you can see that, and then it's really straightforward. So I don't know whether you can see this with me doing it, but I'll set the camera up and you can see me just take the fence out and put it straight on. So there's the router, which is sitting there underneath, plugged in, and we'll show you that. So here we are, we're under the router table. Yeah, it's not the most comfortable place to sit, but hey ho. So here you go, sliding there in on the runners, and this is obviously all the brackets that I've got here to fix it up. So we just take it apart. We've got the brackets over here, we've got 4 of these that just hold the fence, and then we take the fence out. So let's move that, and we are going to get up on the top, and I'm going to fix the fence to the router table. Okay, and we're just putting that on and put them in and slide it on. A bit tight at the minute, let's just loosen that. That one's just sitting a bit tight, there we go. And then we pull the fence up to where it needs to go. There's a router fence, and that sits lovely and square, which, there we go, we've got nice little engineering. And then once you cramp that down, and that just moves in nicely. Just these little blocks which I ordered off Amazon. So there you go, and there is your fence, and then you can adjust and your router bring up. Helps if I know where the and that's ready to use. Now you just adjust that and bring that in to wherever you need. Now that at the back there is for the dust extraction, which is really important, and I'm actually getting slowly to grips with my own dust extraction system, so that's another thing we'll look at in a little while. But there you go, that's the hole for the dust extraction. and takes that out. So that's my simple idea, but quite effective, to create a router table. So here we go. Doesn't take a lot to do tours around here. Tiny space, but that's what this is about. Tiny spaces, small workshops. So over here I've created another workstation, again in this corner. So what we can see over here is a bandsaw. We've got a Rutland's, a nice little bandsaw, a bench top bandsaw, and a pillar drill, which again, you might use them, you might not, but they're really handy pieces of kit, both bench top. And I've created a staggered bench, which you can see down there. It's actually so that works on top of there, so you can move this off if you need to. There's always, as we said in this video, there's always compromise, because you do have to move things around and you have to work smart, but that's what we do in these sort of spaces. But it works, but it's still working for me, and I'm still able to complete all the tasks I want to complete. Yeah, it might take just a little bit longer, but that's okay, that's all cool, isn't it? So we've got a nice bandsaw here, and a pillar drill, and I'll bring a close up there so you can see that space a little bit better. So here you can see we're just coming through there, so you can see there the bandsaw goes perfect onto that workbench. So again, I've made it as it's staggered, so it sits perfect, so you can put things onto there, the bandsaw, and you can see the staggering perfectly there. Got my dog bed there, he's not out at the moment. I'm sure you'll meet him at some point. And a really nice zipper, lime green. We love the colour. You're certainly not going to miss that pillar drill, are you? So we've been doing a bit of drilling on there, and we've been doing some cutting. So we got that. So there's this space there, and then somewhere to hang the bandsaws, the actual blades, and just putting that there, and they're plugged in there. And the electrics comes into this shed over there, which I had it all wired in appropriately through armoured cable, which comes through the garden from the house. So it has all its own. So it has its own electrics. Really, really important. You can see it coming in there, the wire cabling underneath. But just a really simple space. Everything has to have a space, and it's actually out of the way there, and it works really well. And again, you can move that because it's all movable. So if you need to just create a bit of space, it moves. So there you go, that is, and we can do some more on bandsaws and pillar drills another time, but I'm just showing you how I've made this work for me. So, dust extraction. Yeah, finding a space for dust extraction, keeping on top of the mess. So this is still a work in progress, my dust extraction system. I actually went and bought some stuff on yesterday. What day is it today? It's Saturday today, so Friday. Yesterday I went to a shop and I bought the wrong size. So often there's, you know, muppetry going on in here. I'm sure you have plenty of muppetry going on in your own workshop, and you go, yeah, should have done that. Oh, if only I'd have measured properly. So I bought the wrong bit, and I've got to go back and get some more. So I've got some hose, which is under there, but it lives. There you go. You can see where that is. And again, under the bench, here it is, and it'll come out. But what I want to do is get this plumbed in properly. So I've also got another hose here. So that's 63mm, and this is 32mm hose, which again you've got the different connectors, but some of these I bought are wrong for what I need, because I bought 100 and somehow in my brain I thought I was on a 100 system, and that's 63 coming out of that extraction unit. So it says it lives under there, and staying clean and tidy is, again, makes your workflow better. It just makes it easier to do. When you finish with something, that runs around, and I plug it into the back of the table saw. This will be, because you can see the small extractor will be able to go into the router table, and smaller tools. So you've got options, and what I'm looking at doing, which we'll see whether the videos in the future, is I'm going to run them and extend it so it goes around the workshop in such a way that it works and just is better. But it has to be movable, and I have no problem moving it out. You know, some people can say, oh, it's really fiddly and it's a real like pain in the arse, because you just try to, you always got to move things in and out, but that's what you have to do when you're in a small space. So everything has its space, it goes back, you use it, and you stay tidy, you stay neat. So having dust extraction is actually a really important bit of kit to have in your workshop, or build some sort of extraction system that works for you. So that'll be a work in progress, and you'll see that as we go on. Now, this is a really simple idea. What we're looking at here is this, somewhere to keep your sandpaper, because often sandpaper gets thrown all over the place, doesn't it? You use bits of sandpaper and it's just all over the place. And again, in a small workshop, is about everything having a space, and even down to the bits of sandpaper that you're using. So I made just this little pocket there, really simple, and then glued it on. Something really, and I actually really like that. It's of all the little things I've added in here in the workshop, this, and then you can just put your sandpaper storm in there neatly, and again it keeps everything nice and tidy. I've got bigger pieces of sandpaper on a roll over here, but that are all the bits of paper you're working on, and again it keeps your bench nice and neat and tidy. So there you can see my sandpaper, just to keep it neat and tidy. And when you're working, you want to have everything just easily accessible, but also out of the way, because it's very easy to get a cluttered bench really fast. Trust me, I've been on many cluttered benches over my time of making things. I used to work in a furniture manufacturing company, actually a family business, which is many years ago now. It's a company called Pine, which was my family's business, but that's long gone, and now I'm just doing things on my own. So, but working on a bench, I can remember working on benches, and they were just full of stuff, and so the thing that I even down to just having the sandpaper, things like that, was a really neat idea, in which I just thought, well, just somewhere to keep them, and again it makes it just a nicer environment to work in. So I hope you've enjoyed this little tour, and as I start this channel, if you've liked this little workshop tour and you're interested in following this, then please subscribe, please like the channel, and I'm going to be making all sorts of projects in here. Still, all sorts of different things are going to come out of this tiny space. It'll be interesting to see what actually comes out of it. I've got some interesting table designs that I'm making, and I'm going to put some videos up about that. So different people are asking me to make different things, and maybe you'll suggest some things that I can make. So you know, and then we'll see what we can make actually in a small space. I know I've got to make a bed, so I'm going to make a bed for my granddaughter, and that's going to come up soon. So that'll be interesting, and actually I can make all the components in here, but will I be able to assemble it? Well, that's going to be interesting, isn't it? So that's one to watch, just to see whether I can actually make I've made beds, but actually I'm going to see about how I make a nice unusual bed for my granddaughter. So lots of different projects coming up, and I'd love to hear from you, and enjoy this, and just come with me on the adventures of the small workshop. So take care, everyone. Bye.